Shalom, shalom. First, I'm going to start off by giving all honor, praises, and infinite glory unto Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Rachak Radash. Double honors unto the elders, apostles, and bishops of GMS, Great Millstone, who rule well, teach, and edifying peace and blessings to you, sincere Akim, while Akwat in his household of faith. My name is Yeshaya from the GMS Arizona Church of Nadawam Tazah. Gonna make an edifying video, man. Just a real short one. Kind of going up onto that point. Rise up, you women that are at ease. And that spirit that's round about right now, man. Because as we know, in the prophecy, in the last days, a woman shall compass a man. In the society we live in, chiefly in Babylon the Great, man, women are gravely out of order. The whole thing has been turned upside down. And that's what this devil Esau has done to society, man. Has everybody's minds messed up. These women believe in a monogamist, one man, one woman, and, happy wife, happy life, get married, have children, divorce, take half the shit, type of lifestyle, man. And this is the state of Babylon the Great, and that weighs heavy upon a man's conscience. And, those Akim, brothers that's in this truth, man, we men, that ultimately are doing anything that we can to stay in his faith, man. So if it means, leaving and walking away from these women, if it means just taking a low for the time being, that means everything to us, Bear with me for 1 second. All right, this is Matthew chapter 19 and verse 29. We can get verse 28 too. It says, Yahushua said unto them, Verily I say unto you, that which ye have followed me in the regeneration, the Son of Man sit in the throne of his glory. He shall sit upon the 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And everyone that hath forsaken houses and brethren, or sisters, or father, or mother, or wife, or children, or lands for my name's sake, shall inherit 100-fold, and shall inherit everlasting life. But many that are first shall be last, and the last shall be first. And that's, the society you have to deal with immense disrespect as a man. You're not respected. Servants aren't respected by their masters. Masters aren't respected by their servants, man. You go to the plantation, whether you working over or under somebody, man, it's just all kinds of hate and strife and discourse, even at the job. You come home, your woman, they treat you exactly how they feel. In the world, they have they call it projecting. A way that a person is feeling is going to be, how they're going to display themselves to everyone else in their lives, man. So when you have a person that's real unhappy with their life, they're going to display that same type of unhappiness unto everybody around them. And, generally, people express those very same emotions to the people that are closest to them because they feel the most comfortable to be able to do so. So essentially, man, you could have people in your life that are just comfortable with your presence, and they're going to have no issue with treating you like dirt, man. And this is Salakia. Here we go. Matthew chapter 13 and verse 57. It says, And they were offended in him, but Yahushua said unto them, A prophet is not without honor, save in his own country and in his own house. And he that did not many mighty works because of their unbelief, man. So saving his own country, saving his own house, man. These people in your life aren't going to see you as a man of the Lord. Your boss, he don't see you as a man of the Lord. He sees you just as another worker, that's hired on to do a simple job and make his pockets bigger, man. At whatever view, these people don't esteem, those that follow Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. They don't esteem the men of the Lord, man. They don't esteem you as a child of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. Because at the end of the day, man, it's blessed. Those people, can be considered blessed just from helping you out in your life, man. If the Lord, you be one of the Lords. Because the scriptures talk about what you have done unto my little ones, you have done unto me. And at the end of the day, this isn't no self-glorification, meaning, we're the center of the universe and everything, somebody does something good for me there, not that type of spirit at all. But, the ways that, brothers and even you sisters are getting treated in this current society is just totally ass backwards. You women hate each other so bad. Women hate women. Men competing against men to impress these illegitimate women. Pride, lust, all kinds of crazy spirits are all without in this world, man. This is real quick. This is 1 John chapter 16 in verse 15. It says, "Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him." So we can't even, can't be too overly invested in these women, man. You can't, men are engineered to love these women, man. When you take a woman, a wife, you get you a wife, that's your possession, man. That's a part of you. The conjoining of two families, conjoining of like two spirits, man. That's a blessed thing. But the society has turned it to be so perverse, and its flesh is perverse even in its own nature. So everything is totally screwed up in a way that it shouldn't be. All right, we cannot love this place because this place is a perpetual wickedness, man. And even these bodies that we reside in, it's just straight wickedness. It says, "In the world passes away," Salakia, skip the whole verse. It says, "For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world." And that's, what these people are engulfed in. And even then, you women not being able to have that spiritual understanding, that spiritual strength, because of you being that lesser vessel, are completely susceptible to these major flaws, man. That's why most of your women, they say they're in the truth until it comes to multiple women. They say that they're in the truth until they want to start getting married in Esau's terms, And that's how these women don't really believe, man. They're not going to believe until all hell breaks loose. And I just, brother posted this in the chat, man, like, damn, an Italian man walks 450 kilometers to clear his head after an argument with his wife, man. And the scriptures talk about, it's better to dwell in basically on the roof than in the house with a brawling woman. A woman that's crazy and out of order, man, it's better to just, be without him. And that's why Apostle Paul wrote in his writings, man, it says, if thou has a wife, be as that you didn't. Also it says, but seek not to be loosed. So, we're not trying to run people out the door, but we're also not going to stop them if they already out, leaving. It's like, it's whatever, man. I mean, at the end of the day, we're here to serve you. How about Shem Yahushai? If a woman, it gets you this angry to where you walk damn near 200 something miles, man. Like, man, that's heavy, man. Like, what did she do to him to make him that damn mad that he had to really, that's a life recontemplation type of walk, And that's the thing, bro. And it's true. We're not dealing with those gimmicks and that stupidity, man. The scriptures say, let's see. This is 1 Peter 3 and verse 11. It says, "Let him eschew evil and do good. Let him seek peace and eschew it. For the eyes of the Lord are over the righteous, and his ears are open upon the prayers. But the face of the Lord is against them that do evil." Seeking that spirit of seeking peace. See, our peace is in the kingdom of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, chiefly. Which is, we can attain that kingdom, Lord willing, through, ultimately that predestined inheritance. But the things that the elected are going to be doing on this world, man, is forsaking this life and forsaking these things, man. Forsaking wives, mothers, lands, houses, and that's a part of even that spirit of, give diligence to make thy calling and election sure. And that's a part of seeking peace, because those are the things that we have to do to walk this straight gate, man. We're not like these men in the world that just simp over the wife, man, happy wife, happy life, and then they start losing themselves. They start getting in drinking habits. They start getting in smoking habits, and they find themselves 20, 15, 20 years down the line, and only a fraction, maybe 1 in 10 relationships actually even make it that long. I have patients that I take care of in the hospital, man, and they'll be like real elderly couples, and man, they be on some wicked vibes, man. So even the 1/10 that does make it there, and that have been together for a long time, it's all corrupted, man. And the scriptures say, King Solomon had 1,000 wives and found none righteous. How much more in this wicked society, man? If you found a good woman that's gonna hold you down, man, thank you. How about Shem Yahushai? But don't put all your eggs in that basket. Enjoy the gift, enjoy the help. A woman is a helpmeet to a man, man. That word woman even going into a man's servant, a woman. That's what they're there for, to make you feel peace. To chill you out. And the majority of these women, their prerogative isn't to serve you. Their prerogative is to serve themselves and their belly, man. The scriptures talk about a pride of a woman is her hair, and that goes really into her image. That's why a lot of these women get so offended when you might have multiple women, because, to them, it makes them look like they getting punked, because women are very proud, and that's the thing, Akim, we got to always make sure that we don't get, bewildered by one, man. You might get along with a woman super well, man, but that doesn't mean that she's going to be the woman that's going to be able to walk with you in Isaiah 4:1. We're not looking at the prettiest woman. We're not looking at the most, fashionable woman. We're looking at the woman that's right. And if she is pretty and fashionable, then blessed is you. But at the end of the day, through the Spirit, we have to see through these people, man. Outwardly, they could be the prettiest person on the planet, but inwardly, they could be an absolute devil. Look at Abraham, man. With that woman that tried to commit adultery with him in that house, and he had to flee in his master's house. He had to flee. He had to get away from her. And she was a highly attractive woman. He was like, nah, screw that. That's a spirit of seeing through these things, man. Because we're not out here just thinking with the wrong head. We got to be out here thinking with the right head, man. The head that gets us closer to Yahweh Shem Yahushai. But anyways, I want to finish off with these just two scriptures, man, to tie this thing in. This is Isaiah chapter, I kind of forget what this one is at, Salakia. It escapes me. I think it's 32:9. Hold up. Yeah, there it is. It says, Isaiah chapter 32 and verse 9 says, "Rise up, ye women that are at ease. Hear my voice, ye careless daughters. Give ear unto my speech. Many days and years ye shall be troubled, ye careless woman. For the vintage shall fail, and the gathering shall not come." Man, they ain't going to be able to get the things that they used to getting, man. What's a woman going to do when she can't call 911? What's a woman going to do when she can't just scream out for help? And, and that's that disastrous reality is going to come upon the face of all you Babylonian women, of all you women that don't have a man or the Lord. That's why the scriptures say, I'll make a man more precious than fine gold. And that's chiefly talking about the men of the Lord, the men of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, those that are following the Lord, man, in truth and sincerity. Those that the Lord's got their back, the elect. The elect man is going to be as fine gold in that time, because, worldly perspective, a lot of these men look like they're winning because they have money, they got status, they got cars, and, they might be even philosophically deep in worldly perspectives. Into, worldly people, worldly knowledge, is important. Say you got a guy that thinks he's on a level and stuff like that, in Babylonian philosophy, everybody's going to follow behind him. Everybody goes back and refers to Socrates all the time like he was some wise guy, man. If you go into that guy, he was low-key. He was a high-key bug out. He was an idiot. But the prophets, through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, those that bring out the word of the Lord, that's going to be true fine gold, man. Everything else is pyrite. Everything else is fool's gold, man. The wisdom of this world is foolishness before Yahweh Shem Yahushai, and that's going to get shown pretty soon, man. When you got everything all falling loose, everybody else is, going to be just completely lost. But those, the elect, they're going to be able to walk through that time, although it'll be a tough time still, but they're going to be able to walk through it with the spirit of boldness, man, with courage and guidance and direction through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. This is Micah chapter 7 and verse 10. It says, "Then she that is my enemy shall see it, and shame shall cover her which said upon me, where is the Lord thy power? You know, for all you brothers that might be dealing with a woman that don't really believe, man. Dealing with a woman that's just, that's why the apostles talk about don't even tell your woman this truth. You know, they ain't even going to believe it anyways. But how much more when they start saying they believe it, but then they start picky choosing, what they want to believe in, man. It's going to be all kinds of hell, man. Even moving in with a woman, living with a woman, that'll test your character like a mug, man. And brothers know it. Most brothers have experienced what that's like. And it's like, damn, and doing that in the truth, it just adds a whole nother level of like, hell to it, man. And by all means, take care of your house, do what you got to do. But we all have to move with that spirit of understanding that these women, Satan is literally just programmed them to them, man. Straight up. And that shit could wake up at any point in time. But anyways, that's all I wanted to get at that one. This is Isaiah 4:1, and we're going to close out. Because that's right around the corner, man. That's one of the prophecies that's going to be coming up soon. And this reads, in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. All right, so I pray this lesson was edifying. I want to lastly give all honor, praises, and infinite glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Rachak Kodash. Shalom.